everybody. So I just want to first say thank you to Allie. Allie's been a big inspiration in our lives. And, you know, from a brain health perspective, food is the first thing. And so when we met Allie, it just changed everything. So thank you for everything that you do. And thank you guys for having me today to talk about all this crazy stuff. So let me tell you just quickly a little bit about what energetic kinesiology is. That's what we practice at Shift. There's a team of us, and I think throughout the month you might meet several of them, maybe all of them. But energetic kinesiology is based in Chinese medicine, some Indian healing techniques, and current neuroscience research. It is the fastest growing healing modality in the world. We are trying very hard to bring it to the United States, but there's only about 200 of us across the country that practice. We're working on founding an institute now so that we can make this more available to people and we can get it in the hands of people so that we can help as many people as we can. We focus at Shift on neurological stress, so that's everything from ADD and ADHD to learning differences, and also all the way into aging and dementia and helping support any neurological stress, helping to relieve the stress. What energetic kinesiology does is it works with frequencies, and so we can identify very specific frequencies, and then we can use things like light and sound and acupressure to release the stress of that frequency and bring it back into alignment so that the brain can heal itself. It is 95% effective, so we have been able to make amazing changes in people's lives, as long as they're willing to do the nutrition side, because that's always the first thing. So you're going to hear a lot about a lot of different things over the course of this month. But today I want to focus on stress management. So stress management begins with a healthy brain. Dr. Mark Hyman, if you guys know the Broken Brain series, he has 5 things that are the basis of having a healthy brain. So that's nutrition, everything from your gut biome to making sure you deal with food allergies and toxicities. Exercise, obviously you hear that one all the time. Stress management, which we'll be diving into today. Sleep, which is the big one, you gotta sleep, and relationships and connections. So throughout the month, like I said, you're gonna be getting a lot of information about a lot of these things, but I really wanna focus today on neuroplasticity, kind of defining what that is and how to use it for stress management. So let's define neuroplasticity first. The actual definition is the ability of the brain to form and reorganize synaptic connections, especially in response to learning or experience, or following injury. So let's break that down. The brain's main cell is a neuron, hence the neuro, and the ability to change or mold something, that's plasticity. So the word can seem very scary, but it's really just the ability of the brain to change itself. This isn't actually a new thought. In the last 20 years of neuroscientific research, we know more now than we've known in the previous 2,000 years about what's going on with the brain. And the ability for the brain to change itself by using it in new ways, that's a new thought for us. That's thanks to many new technologies that we have, which literally allow us to view the brain in a new way. So let's look at 6 different ways. We're going to look today at 6 different ways that we can use neuroplasticity to affect our well-being. The first one is mental fitness. So that's the idea that we play games, right? You hear the apps for luminosity and things like that. So in order to manage stress efficiently, your brain needs to be agile and be able to change. So mental fitness is about energy, strength, synchronization, power, concentration, and memory. One of the most researched areas in neuroplasticity is the idea that we can change the brain by using it in a new way. So games, puzzles, learning something new, reading, all of those kinds of things. So learn to dance, learn to laugh more, learn to do something fun. Anything that you do that learns, that creates a new neural pathway. That's not new information. But it is true that you need to use it or you lose it. So we lay myelination in certain areas of our brain, and when we don't use that over and over and over, that's expensive. The fat in the brain is expensive. It'll take it away and it'll put it somewhere else. So use it or lose it is actually true. So Time magazine had an article that featured a group of nuns that were beating Alzheimer's and growing into old age, and they wanted to do some research to find out why. And 2 things emerged. First was their developed sense of emotional gratitude, and we'll get to gratitude in a minute. But the second was their lifetime devotion to learning. Learning is important. The next thing that's really important to that is physical movement. That can also train the brain in new ways and create new neural pathways. So research from Oxford University actually shows that juggling creates new white matter in the brain. The white matter is that myelination that I was just talking about, and that's what allows thoughts and electricity to move quickly around the brain. So when that myelination is strong, then information can move quickly. But many studies actually have looked at movement and new neural pathways, including things like Tai Chi, yoga, Taekwondo, swimming. And Dr. Amen specifically says table tennis or ping pong is the best thing that you can do for both exercise and your brain. And if you need to know, Montreat has a ping pong center that has many, many tables you can go play. A center where the U.S. team comes to practice. Who knew? Yeah, I just found that out. Yeah, we need to do a Bounty and Soul field trip, play some ping pong. Exactly. So the second on the list is, and by you guys would all know, it's gratitude. And gratitude is something that everyone can practice. In his new book, Becoming Supernatural, Dr. Joe Dispenza explains, thoughts drive your feelings, and your feelings drive your thoughts. And eventually this loop hardwires your brain into the same patterns, which conditions your body into the past. And because emotions are a record of our past experiences, if you can't think greater than how you feel, this thinking-feeling loop keeps you anchored to your past and creates a constant state of being. This is how the body becomes the mind, or in time, how your thoughts run you and your feelings own you. That's a really powerful statement about how much control we have. To simplify, the more you think a thought, the more physical that thought becomes. And then we become pre-programmed to respond in the same way over and over again. In fact, 95% of the thoughts we have in a day are subconscious. They are pre-programmed. We program ourselves on how to operate for the day. When we open our eyes, we push play, and we run practically the exact same program that we ran the day before that, and the day before that. So if we wake up in the morning and we start right in on, I don't know what to wear, I don't have enough, it's this person's fault, all of those things, then we continue this cycle, and the cycle owns us. But we have a choice. When we can wake up every morning and set a new setting, we can use these tools of neuroplasticity that you have on your handout and the things that we're talking about today, and we can rewrite the life we want to live. We can choose to be grateful for everything we have and only focus on the things that we have. When we focus on the things that we don't have, it actually activates the particles and the frequencies of lack, and then lack continues in our life. However, if you wake up every day and you focus on just 5 things, just 5 that you do have, and you do this 6 days a week for just 3 months, research shows that you will create new neural pathways in the limbic areas of your brain that control emotion and behavior, and your life will start to change. Imagine what would happen if you did that for your entire life. Just 5 things every single morning. Imagine the power of how you could change your behavior and your actions. And not only that, it will change you physically, so you'll have less physical ailments, including aches and pains. You'll exercise more often. You'll increase happiness and decrease depression. You'll have better sleep. You'll have increased self-esteem. And most importantly, you'll have better resilience in stressful situations, which means that you're laying the foundation to handle stress better every single time it happens. So the next one, that leads right into our next one, which would be meditation and mindfulness. No surprise here, right? You've heard this for many, many years. Max Planck Institute of Human Cognitive and Brain Sciences published an extensive study on meditation and neuroplasticity. The study focused on 2 types of meditation and the effects they had on the brain. The first study focused on mindfulness, and that is tied directly to the prefrontal cortex area of the brain, which is involved in complex thinking, attention, and personality. The second study focused on the social skills through compassion, gratitude, there's a theme here, and difficult emotions. This meditation changes areas of the limbic regions, and again, we have that change in emotional response and behavior. The cool part was, when these two meditations were practiced in sequence, then people experienced 51% less cortisol in response to stress. 51%. That's a huge amount to have as a difference in your stress response in stressful situations. Tanya Singer of the Resource Project was quoted saying, "Our results provide impressive evidence for brain plasticity in adults through belief and concentrated daily mental practice, leading to an increase in social intelligence. There are hundreds of studies that link meditation to increased spiritual experiences, increased lowered levels of stress, lowered physical ailments, increased focus and attention, increased social connection, increased everything, and decreased stress. Mindfulness and meditation have worked their way into school systems, corporate offices, hospitals, even the government. These simple practices, based on ancient techniques, are critical to our ability to clear the mind and create a new reality for ourselves." So the next one, and this is my favorite one, is sound and music. Have you ever wondered what sound looks like? Did you know that frequencies create a pattern? Nigel Stanford has this amazing video, you can look it up on YouTube, called Cymatics, in which a group of musicians play different instruments, and using the sound, they use water, they use sound on a vibratory plate, and they use fire. And doing that, they can show you what sound looks like. It's a really cool experience. And it's something that we use in clinic with our kids so that they can help to understand when we talk about frequency what that means and how we can change it and how sound affects it. We're surrounded by frequencies we don't even know we experience. In fact, Brian Metcalf on a PBS Nova show was talking about the light spectrum, the visible light spectrum. If you took the light spectrum and on a map you stretched a line from New York City to LA, the size of the visible light spectrum, and I'll just say that the map is this big, is a dime. That's what we can see. The rest of that spectrum is something that most of us can't even experience. So we're being affected by that every single day. And somatic frequency has an effect on matter. And when there is a disturbance in this frequency, it can manifest as physical pain, allergies, neurological stress, and illness. But if it is true that these frequencies can cause disruptions, then it must also be true that we can heal these frequencies using other frequencies. Dr. Norman Doidge, from his book, The Brain's Way of Healing, says, "For this reason, it is possible to deliver certain frequencies of sound energy to the cochlea," that's the sound receptor in the ear, and the vestibular apparatus, which is what helps us to maintain balance, which convert it to electrical patterns of energy in the brain. Change the frequencies of sound played into the ear, and over time, we change the structure and function of the brain's circuits. He presents many research studies in that book on sound and healing neurological stress. There are promising studies using binaural beats. I know some of you have probably heard of binaural beats. That has to do with, they play two different hertz in the ear, usually just slightly off from each other. And there was a research study where they showed that a pre-operative stress, they were studying people that were getting ready to go into operation, and they used binaural beats to help to see what would happen. And so 26% of those, 26.3% of them experienced less stress after having heard the binaural beats, as opposed to just the 11.1% of people that had been given the placebo sound. And similar research has resulted in the same endings as well, especially as it applies to anxiety. Healing with vibration is something that the Chinese and Indian cultures have known and been using for thousands of years. Chinese medicine is based in the law of 5 elements and the energetic balance between them. And in Ayurvedic traditions, sound is one of the modalities they use to help heal and help with overall wellness. So the next one on our list is community. John Rady, the author of Spark, the revolutionary new science of exercise and the brain, says, get connected and stay connected. You guys can feel that when you're all here today or part of the Bounty and Soul family. That's a connection. He ranks a sense of community as more important than exercise. Woohoo! In his book, Headstrong, Dave Osprey talks about the 4 steps that even bacteria take. First, run away and stand up to anything fearful. Or stand up. You can't do both at the same time. That's called freeze. 2, eat everything. It's important to be fed and have energy. 3, reproduce. You need more of you. And 4, form a community. And that's exactly how yogurt is made. Human beings are wired to be kind and nice and supportive, and to find a tribe, a family, and a community. Acts of kindness actually cause neuroplasticity through the release of neurotransmitters. Dr. Mark Hyman, again back to that Broken Brain series, and many other books, by the way, says community can be more effective than medication when it comes to our health. We find community at the family level, in neighborhoods, in associations, at Bounty and Soul, sharing food, and even rooting for the same team. New research emerging gives us insight to how important connection is. With loneliness and depression at an all-time high and on the rise, it has never been more important to feel connected. In her book, Alone Together, Sherry Turkle talks about how technology can bring us together, but it's a false sense of togetherness and separating us at the same time. As humans need to have physical contact to create community and release oxytocin. So that's our feel good. We need that oxytocin, and we feel it when we touch each other, when we hold hands, or when we soothe each other. When we have this, we feel connected, we have purpose and cohesiveness. Feeling safe and connected is directly related to feeling our higher purpose and our spiritual connection. When these 2 things are in balance, we create strong neural pathways to protect and be supportive, and we crave these things from the deepest recesses of our brain. And last but not least, we have optimism. Optimism is described by Jason Silva as a self-amplifying feedback loop. This is one of my favorite terms. Quoting Rich Doyle, who wrote Darwin's Pharmacy, he says, they are about finding ways to become aware or learn to perceive the feedback loops between our creative and linguistic choices and our consciousness and our experiences. In other words, the extraordinary capacity we have to sculpt and mold our lives. He goes on to talk about how we are co-creators and co-authors of our own experiences, and that the control of that comes through these feedback loops. It's about setting the intention to be optimistic. And when you do that, you create space to stumble into more optimism, to more experiences that lead to more optimism. In his book, Becoming Supernatural, Joe Dispenza talks about the science of how like molecules attract like molecules. So someone who is optimistic is at a cellular level attracting more optimism into their life. And that reinforces a new positive feedback loop. And it goes on and on. A study from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Cambridge found that participants with larger orbitofrontal cortexes, so that's this bottom part of the front part of our brains, tend to have less anxiety and be more optimistic. Therefore, by stimulating the changes in this area of the brain, optimism may ultimately protect someone from anxiety. Using the tools presented here on your piece of paper, like meditation and gratitude, you can increase activity in the orbital frontal cortex, therefore making it bigger, therefore reducing anxiety. So as you can see, neuroplasticity isn't something that is owned by the medical profession or even something that's only available to an elite few. We each have the ability to visualize, shape, and create each day, month, year, and life we want. By changing the way we think, we change the way we are. We have the power to focus on the positive and attract more positive into our lives. As we have seen, our thoughts create our reality. If we let our thoughts run rampant and unobserved, then we get stuck in patterns and may be frustrated with our future because it doesn't reflect a manifestation of change. But if we dare to visualize something different, then we begin to attract something different into our lives. When we focus on how grateful we are for what we have, then we are always content in sufficiency and easily receive more. When we see the glass as half full, then we always have enough. And we create a positive feedback loop that begins the process of attracting more into our lives. Through mental fitness, meditation, sound community and optimism, we can create a future free of the shackles of stress. One where we can react with compassion and kindness, forgiveness and gratitude to every situation, and create a peaceful satisfaction that we are fulfilled and life is abundant. So, I have plenty of time for questions. I know you guys probably have questions, so the floor is yours.
So like if you were to take a brain scan of somebody that is negative or anxious, depressed, it looks a lot different than the brain scan of somebody that is grateful, optimistic, maybe practices mindfulness.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So lots of areas of the brain are involved in feeling content. So I'm coming. So that's their brain. What Allie's question was, if you did a brain scan of someone who was anxious and fearful, would it look different than someone who has great gratitude and peacefulness from meditation and things like that? And absolutely, different areas of the brain light up when we experience different things, and different areas of the brain are stronger as we build neuroplasticity or we build the myelination in those areas.
Do you have the strategies, or is it easy to tell us a couple of strategies? Let's say that you meditate in the morning, you do some of these things, but what if you have a negative, what if you just have a habitual negative thought loop going in your head? I mean, it's easy to say that we can change that, we have the power to change that. Saying that and actually changing that and then feeling that are two different things.
Yeah, so we have a lot of strategies. First, we recommend brain integration. There's my plug for the day. Second, we have a sheet up here that you guys can come get at some point where I gave you, there are 10 tools for using neuroplasticity for stress management. So there are some tools here, and they actually talk about how. But one of the most important things, and one of the things that you can do every single day is, in Hawaiian culture, they believe that every child is born with a bowl of light, and that throughout their life and throughout their day, people put rocks. And I'm quoting now from the minister at my church. I go to Unity of the Blue Ridge, so Reverend Darlene tells this story fairly often about having this bowl of light, and people put rocks in it, right? So, and at the end of the day, in Hawaiian culture, they do this process called huli, where they empty their bowl. They get rid of all of those rocks, right? And that's the idea that you should release the ideas of the day. But also, it's about awareness. So this prefrontal cortex that we have, this amazing part of our brain that allows us to have personality and executive functioning, like not like other animals, we're different, is because we have this sense of awareness, because we can observe ourselves in a different way. And in physics, we know that electrons act differently when they're observed. So the act of observing that you're having a negative thought is the first step, because a lot of people just have them and they don't even observe them. But if you can just take a second to be able to observe it and say, wait, I don't have to believe that thought. I think Dr. Amen, well, it's Reverend Darlene that says it's stinking thinking. And Dr. Amen says you don't have to believe every stupid thought you have. So it's about having an awareness that your brain is going to have a lot of thoughts. You don't have to have connection to them. And that's the biggest thing, is if you don't connect. You just say, oh, I'm just going to let that pass. As if, like in a meditation, when the thoughts happen, you're trying to let them pass like clouds. It's the same process. You want to empty that bowl and not let a stone carry with you. You don't let it keep getting back in your bowl. And there's lots of other tools on this piece of paper that are things like that 5 gratitudes and how to do certain meditations and good meditations that I've found that I love that you can listen to and things like that. Go ahead.
On January 16th, they stopped my heart and started back in me, but they gave me amnesia medication, so I wouldn't feel when they done what they done. But listen, tell me something. It's hard for me to think now of like someone's name.
Oh, yeah.
So do I have to practice something to kind of
Get that
get
back.
back into the mood?
Absolutely. So did everybody hear her question? They stopped her heart and they started it back. And after they did that, she's having a hard time thinking and remembering things, it sounds like. And that is because the heart-brain pathway is a neural pathway. It's not, they They are not separated. They are actually, it is a neural pathway that's directly connected. So is the gut-brain, and you're going to hear a lot about the gut-brain axis, and we work with both of those things in clinic because it is a neural pathway. And yes, you do want to do some things in order to get that back online. You might need some help through certain supplements, through certain foods, and then you might also need something like energetic kinesiology to help get those frequencies back going. But yes, that's absolutely directly connected because that is a neural pathway. Go ahead.
So is the new thought that neuroplasticity is actually able to grow a different cortex here than you previously? Or is it more about just adapting new things to replace?
Yes.
Do you understand the question?
I do. And can everybody hear her question? She's asking whether or not neuroplasticity is about actually growing a new prefrontal cortex, let's say, or is it about helping to repair what you have and help it to change and grow? There are two answers to that question. There is new scientific research that shows that we do grow new neurons, which for a long time it was believed that we don't. The two areas of the brain that we grow neurons are, I believe it's in the thalamus, but also in the hippocampus. The hippocampus is the seat of short-term memory, and also then the connection to all memory, and all things that we experience automatically connect to some sort of memory. So you're able to create new pathways and new cells in the hippocampus. But neuroplasticity is about being able to change the way some things are wired together. So in brain science, we talk about when you have a really connected neuropathway, it's called wired together. Every single time you think that thought, it wires the same pathway and it gets stronger and stronger. It lays more myelination in that area, and that pathway gets stronger and stronger. And so neuroplasticity is about using a new pathway, using a new tool, and using your brain in a new way that allows a new neural pathway to start to get that energy. And it create the old one has to let go because fat. So we need fat in our diets. I know you guys have all heard this. We need a lot of fat in our diets, lots of avocados, lots of nuts, and lots of coconuts because fat and cholesterol are the key to the brain being able to work well. And so, but it's expensive. A lot of the calories that we take in a day, we use in our brain. We think a lot. And so it's expensive. So it will not leave an area myelinated that you're not using. And so if you've got something that's wired together and it's like this, and you start to use this other pathway, it will automatically start to release the myelination from this pathway and use a new one and myelinate it instead.
I'm enjoying your TED Talk, but it's almost too difficult for the average person who hasn't been to grad school to comprehend or break down.
Yeah.
But I had a traumatic brain injury 10 years, almost 11 years ago in June, Memorial Day, from a car accident. And I basically self-medicated myself back onto health again by reading a neurosurgeon's book from Duke, where he talked about doing brain exercises. And the first thing, I couldn't do it all at once. One of the things was taking pictures and turning them upside down. One of them was breaking your normal routine and going different directions that you normally would to work or to, recreate or whatever. Another was music, to listen to music that you've never listened to before. Well, I owned record stores, I was a musician, so there wasn't much that I could think of that I hadn't heard. And I thought, well, maybe rap music, because I didn't like rap. I was kind of like those DJs that would call it country and rap and call it rap. But anyway, I ended up buying one of the first iPods from a college student who had sold it to me for $20 instead of like $400 or whatever. And she had all these songs on there that were college oriented, and also had Desperate Housewives on there, which she said, "You may not like this," and I said, "That's perfect, because everything that I haven't experienced, it'll help me." Well, it did, and it took like 2 to 3 years to get my short-term memory back because it was shot. I could look at you if you were wearing a blouse that had a peacock on it, and the only thing I could remember was it starts with a P. And that horrified me because I knew many languages, I knew so much education-wise, and I couldn't believe that I lost in short-term memory. If you told me to go to the door and open it, halfway there I would ask you, what did you ask me? So it was horrible, and my wife was panicked from it because she had never seen me like that, and couldn't do anything for me because I had to do it for myself. But these exercises, if you do them little by little and just incorporate them into your life, then it will happen. And I still listen to podcasts, and I still listen to different music that I would not normally listen to because it does stimulate me. And it's gotten to the point where it's even better than I was prior to my accident.
That's amazing. Yeah, so these things, neuroplasticity is not fast. So when we work in clinic with somebody that we're relieving some of the stress on those frequencies, that happens fairly quickly. But then the result after that is that then neuroplasticity has to take place. The brain has to heal, and that can take time. In this situation, using certain games and certain new ways of thinking, it can take a long time, but it's worth doing.
There was a lady that I knew in the community a long time ago. Her last name was I've heard stories about this. She always said she took like apple cider vinegar and just things like that, and it kind of gives you longevity and all that kind of stuff. I don't know, something simple as that, not making it so easy and that way it can help your body out or anything, and improve everything else. I mean, how does that work?
So apple cider vinegar and Allie. Oh yeah, you got to listen to the ladies that tell you things because they know. So apple cider vinegar, and that's something that Allie can really dive more into. But so we have this gut-brain connection. Everybody knows we have a gut-brain connection. But the biggest thing about it is that it's actually your microbiota. Your microbiota is on your hands, it's in your nose, it's in your mouth, it's in your entire GI tract. And it is my understanding that apple cider vinegar helps to balance the microbiome of the gut, which is directly connected to how we are able to think. So yes, it can even be something as simple as just taking apple cider vinegar.
I have one more quick question. Like, I help people access healthcare, and you're talking about services you provide. So considering that there are people in here who have, Medicare, considering there are people who don't have insurance, considering there are people who are high income, low income, or maybe on some kind of Obamacare, for example.
Right.
How do we access your services? Are they cash pay? Do you take insurance? I mean, how does that work?
Those are great questions. So there's a couple answers. First, we can't. It's not that we wouldn't take insurance if that's, insurance won't pay it. Right. So we are a cash company, and we have different ranges for different people, or different ranges for what you need. But because that can become, kind of middle class or elitist in some kind of way because of cash, we also do clinic days, and so those are for low income. We do a sliding scale or a almost no pay on clinic days, and those clinic days happen every couple of months. Starting this year, actually, the first one I think is May 7th, and it's being held at Arms Around ASD, but I need to make sure that that's right, so I can get that information to Allie. But yes, so because we believe that this should be available to everyone, and that's part of why we're establishing the clinics, which will then bring in people that are doing their apprenticeship, and we can have those people be able to also help in a lower income situation, and also, because it's important to me, we want to be able to get it in the hands of everybody. So that's why we do the clinic days. You're welcome. Anybody else? Absolutely. So her question was, do I work with veterans and PTSD? And absolutely. So PTSD is obviously happening in both the physical body and in certain areas of the brain. And so yes, absolutely, we work with PTSD. It can range. The time that we need can be different for people. And we like with PTSD to also be working in tandem with a therapist so that they can also have so that we have a trained professional in that arena on board.
Will you be sure to give that information to Allie so we will have that?
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely we will. Are there any other questions? Well, thank you guys so much for having me.